Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be my review for Penny Dreadful, Season 1, Episode 6, What Death Can Join Together. And, once again, guys, wow, this episode, once again, best episode of the season. I feel like that's how it's going to be with this show now, is that every episode is going to be best episode of the season. This episode was amazing, just like all the other episodes of this show, and this show is just getting so much better and better and better and better every episode. And who's calling? I don't know. But basically, the show gets better and better every episode. We only have 2 episodes left of the show, and I think it's going to be really, really great from here. And I feel like for the rest of the season, that's how it's going to be, is that best episode of the season, best episode of the season. This episode is by far the best episode of the season. I have one little complaint with this episode, and I will talk about the complaint, but basically that complaint is, the last episode, I really, really loved it because, it was focused on Vanessa. This episode reintroduced everything in Demonoid. They did a very good job of recapping the events in Demonoid. I have no idea who's calling, so do not ask me. They did a very good job recapping the events in Demonoid. They did a very good job with doing that. And, basically, the biggest thing in that episode had to do with Ethan and Dorian. Now, that's not really brought up in this episode, except, that's not really brought up. So, I think I understand why they brought it up, why they didn't really bring it up, because there's more to that come. But let's just get to the episode. So, right away, we have this really big fight between Malcom and Vanessa, because Malcom is showing Vanessa where Fen was accidentally killed, and explains about the creature's attack. Vanessa walks out, she's very disgusted at the stench, and Malcom asks her to use her abilities to see if she can sense anything, and she warns that she can't just summon her abilities up, and tells Malcom to leave her alone. The explorer asks if she's forgotten Mina, and why they're trying to save her, pointing out that he's lost his family, and Vanessa reminds him that she's lost her family as well, and after a moment she relents and says that she'll try. You know what's really big, though, that I don't understand? Why does Malcom feel sympathy for Vanessa? I mean, the thing is, we saw last episode, she basically destroyed his family, so why does he even care about her very much? That's what I'm wondering. Why does he care? I really don't know. But, then we see that at Malcom's home, Vanessa lays out her tarot cards and reminds Mina begging her for help. And as she turns over the cards, Vanessa gets a mental image of a ship and people screaming in agony. And there's a painting of a ship on the wall, and Vanessa stares at it for a moment. She then goes to Malcom, says that the cards indicate a ship on the river and something terrible happening to its crew. So Malcom says that he'll check the London port records, and before he can check it, though, Dorian arrives. And, he says he's come to make amends to Vanessa for leaving the theater abruptly, and she assures him that it isn't necessary, and Dorian asks if she would like to have an adventure. And Vanessa's very startled by this. She doesn't really know if she should trust him, of course, because, Dorian abandoned her. She doesn't really know what to think of him right now. So, she says that she's currently engaged, but Malcom insists that she go. And she's puzzled at the explorer's agreement, but Vanessa tells Dorian that she'll leave with him, and as she goes to get her coat, Malcom tells Dorian that Vanessa is always her own creature, which is a very important line, because that's true. So in the cellar, Malcom is trying to get Victor to start an autopsy on Fenton, so he starts the autopsy on Fenton. So Victor goes to see Malcom and informs him that the autopsy revealed nothing out of the ordinary. And there's a lot of tension right now between Malcom and Victor. Because as we know, Malcom said that he'd rather have Ethan go on that trip than Victor. So, Victor's still a little pissed off at him about that. He informs him that the autopsy revealed nothing out of the ordinary, and he figures that Fenton was able to contact his master through some invisible means of communication. He offers to discuss it with Van Helsing, which I'll get to in the subplot. But as Sembene comes in, Malcom says that he is preparing for another hunting expedition and assures Victor that he will not be required. The explorer abruptly dismisses him and then realizes that Sembene is there. Sembene finally talks. Oh my god, Sembene, after all this time, finally talks, and he says that he has been thinking about Mina and warns that she can't be saved, and tells Malcom to know what he is going to do once they find her, which is huge, because now we know that she can't be saved. So, it's really interesting here. So Dorian takes Vanessa to a photographer's studio, and of course, the last time that Dorian took pictures of girls, was Brona, but that turned out terribly because they ended up having sex and everything, but she ended up, he ended up almost killing her, so, it's not, we get very worried, we're kind of like, what's gonna happen here? So he takes her to this photographer's studio, and she admits that it is her first time. She admits that she has a resistance to having her photo taken, and talks about native tribes who believe that the act of photography steals the subject's soul. So Vanessa wonders what Dorian will do with her soul, and he assures her that he will protect it. She then asks if he's been photographed much, and Dorian says that he prefers paintings because they can capture eternity, and figures that Vanessa understands something of the workings of time, And the photographer finishes setting up and tells Vanessa to focus on something and stay still, and she stares into the camera lens. So, Dorian escorts Vanessa back to Malcom's house, and she thanks him for the adventure, and as he turns to go, Vanessa asks him if he has any plans for dinner, and he tells her that he doesn't anymore, which is pretty big, because he was about to leave, and of course, we're not really sure what's going to happen here. All we know is that, at this point, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I don't trust Dorian. I don't trust Vanessa either. But Vanessa and Dorian really are perfect for each other because they're both these crazy, crazy creatures, Dorian's obsessed with sex and everything, the idea of sex and everything. He will have sex with anyone. And Vanessa's basically the same way, except she's possessed all the time. So they're both very, creepy creatures, and I think that's really cool, the way they go very nicely together. So I definitely do want them to get together eventually. Even though it's creepy, we then see, Ethan meets Malcom and Sabine and asks why Vanessa isn't there. Malcom refuses to explain, tells Ethan that they're going to explore a plaque ship. Oh, wait, I forgot to read this part. Vanessa comes to see Malcom wearing a dress for dinner. He invites her to turn around, shows it him, and surprisingly, he tells her that she looks beautiful, which is a pretty big thing, because in the beginning of the episode, they were having this huge argument and everything, and, it's very surprising, as I said, that he cares so much about her. It could be sort of, sexual, because as we know, she did at some time have sexual feelings for him. We know that. So, it's interesting to see what's going to happen there, but, basically, he tells Vanessa to enjoy her evening, and once she leaves, Malcom goes to where Sabine is waiting with his coat and cane, and the two men leave via the back door. So Ethan meets with Malcom and Sabine and asks why Vanessa isn't there, and Malcom refuses to explain, tells Ethan that they're going to explore a plaque ship. So as they walk, Malcom asks about Brona and Ethan, and I'll talk about that in a second, but, basically, Malcom offers to pay a private asylum in the country, and Ethan believes she would... Okay, then we see that, Malcom offers Optides, saying that the pain will change... Okay, they arrive at the dock, and Malcom explains that it arrived from Cario 4 months ago, and has been in quarantine. The crew was stricken by its unknown disease, and Malcom explains that the tattoos on the creature they killed were Egyptian, which is pretty big. So Vanessa and Dorian have dinner at a posh restaurant, and Dorian insists on serving. And as he does, he talks about all the philosophies he's ever tried, and how they all left him unhappy, and the talk then turns to religion. And Vanessa says that she believes there are unseen tremors around them, and some are more attuned to them than others. Then we see the three men explore the ship. And Dorian then takes Vanessa home, shows her his collection of portraits, and he's playing this music. The last time he played music and showed a collection of portraits, he's had sex with Ethan. So right here we're thinking, oh shit, this is not going to be good at all. She admits that she doesn't find people very mysterious because they gave so much away, and Dorian asks why they gave her, what he gave away, and Vanessa examines him and admits that he gives away nothing. So Dorian puts on music to dance to, congratulates her on her poise, and Vanessa says that it's a matter of control, and he suggests that she abandon it, but Vanessa insists that there are things in her soul that cannot be unleashed without releasing a being with limits. And Dorian asks to kiss her neck, and Vanessa tells him not to, but for permission to do so, what he desires. Now that this is going on, Malcom, Sabine, and Ethan board the ship, make their way to the cargo hold. Inside they find a number of blonde women seemingly comatose, their eyes a solid black. Malcom confirms that none of them are Mina, but is sure that his daughter must be there somewhere. Beneath them in the binge, one of the vampires sleeps. So Dorian then leads Vanessa up to his bedroom, and we know it's gonna get really big here, because Malcom and the others continue their search and confirm that Mina is not there, and the Master awakes and his thrills wake up as well. They attack the man, threatening to outnumber them. They fight back with guns and knives. One vampire... Just a lot of shit's going down in this scene. This was really awesome. One vampire is thrown back, knocking over a lamp and starting a fire. The three men finally dispose of remaining female vampires. So in Dorian's bed, we get the creepiest sex scene on the show so far. Vanessa climbs on top of Dorian. They kiss, but then he takes this knife out, and I'm like, what the fuck is he about to do? And he takes this knife out, and from under his pillow, he literally cuts off her dress that she's wearing, takes the blade, she takes the blade, cuts Dorian's chest, then shoves him back and licks the blood. That was by far the creepiest and most graphic scene we've had on the show so far. It was just like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, it was creepy. As the flames spread, the Master emerges on the other side from Malcom and snarls to the Explorer, pulls up Mina, who screams to her father. Mina is right there. Malcom starts to go to her, but Sabine holds him back as a burning rafter comes down between them. The three men have no choice but to escape. So, basically, you know, we know that Mina's alive, and we know that she's probably like a ghost or something, but she was in that fire. So, at this point, I'm like, is Mina dead? I didn't really know what to think at this point. So, Dorian and Vanessa, they have sex. She bites his shoulders, scratches his face, rolls on top of him. Time suddenly slows her, and all of a sudden, this was very strange. It just slows down for her. But guess what happens? A demon then greets her, says that he's been waiting, looking forward to the great games they have been willed to have together, and Vanessa's very shocked, grabs her clothing, and runs out. So Ethan assures Malcom that they will find Mina, and they know that she's alive. Mina is alive, and Malcom doesn't believe it. And Ethan tells him that he's just like his father, always believing that he's in control. He warns Malcom that there are things that he can't control, and battles he will lose, and all they have are the people they trust, like Vanessa. And Ethan says that he trusts Vanessa and tells Malcom to do the same, or he will start losing battles. Then we see Dorian. He goes to his hidden chamber, removes the cover from the painting, stares at it, scratches on his chest, healing him out in a matter of seconds. And that was kind of creepy, actually, when he did that. I didn't know what was going on there. But Vanessa returns home, enters Malcom's study, and this was awesome. He turns to her and says that he has a lot to tell her, and guess what happens? She then levitates in the air, and now she's possessed. Next week, it's going to be really, really awesome, I think. That was by far the best cliffhanger the show has done so far. Because now Vanessa's possessed again. And of course, we know last week when from last week's episode, you know, the flashback, when Vanessa gets possessed, she goes crazy. So something really bad is about to happen. I really think something big's going to happen next week. And I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. So that was the main plot. Let's get to the subplot of the episode. The subplot had to do with Caliban. Caliban is checking the below-stage equipment when Maud comes down the stairs, and she approaches Caliban, and admits that she's never been below the stage before, and says that her blood tubes are jams. And Caliban then cleans them out, and Maud notices his collection of books. And he calls her Mum, and Maud tells her that they're family, and invites him to use her name, which is really big, because she's his mother right now. So Caliban finishes clearing the tubes, gives them back to her, calling her by her name, and as he goes back to work, Maud says that her brother Lucifer was badly burned in a steam engine accident at Newcastle, and after that he always looked away the same that Caliban did. And Maud admits that she misses seeing her brother's face, thanks Caliban for his help, and leaves as Caliban gasps for air. And I really liked that scene, because this episode got us to care a little bit more for Caliban, I think. Because then what we see is that, basically, while waiting for Victor now had to meet up with Van Helsing. He had to meet up with Van Helsing, and while waiting for Van Helsing, he sits outside of a ballet studio doing anatomical sketches of the young dancers inside. When the older doctor arrives, they go to a nearby restaurant, and Van Helsing says that he has met his great love, his wife, Hannah. And Victor admits that he hasn't met anyone, and Van Helsing assures him that it will happen one day. Like Victor, he was once content with the study of cadavers, but happened to see Hannah when he was eating, and was immediately smitten. Van Helsing tells Victor that they must control their work, but Victor says there are times when they are compelled. He asks if Van Helsing believes in retribution, facing the consequences of one's acts, and Victor explains that there's a line of Shelley's that haunts him. No more let life divide what death can join together, and Van Helsing asks his young friend to tell him his story, and after a moment Victor says that he will one day. He doesn't actually tell him his story, though. So Van Helsing takes Victor to a bookstore and says that Malcom doesn't know what he is dealing with, and they can never tell him because the truth is undurable. The older doctor then admits that Hannah didn't succumb to a disease, but rather, he was forced to drive a stake through her heart and cut off her head. Basically, she was a vampire. That's what we're supposed to think of here, that she was a vampire. And, Van Helsing asks Victor if he knows the word vampire. Finally, on this show, they said the word vampire. Like, they've talked about it throughout the whole show, but they haven't actually said it. And for the first... Sorry, guys. That was like a scene in Penny Dreadful, I'll get to that. But for the first time in this show, they've referenced a vampire, which is really big. And basically, Victor admits that he doesn't. He shows Victor a copy of a Penny Dreadful, Barney the Vampire, and says that such creatures exist in real life, and exceeds the limits of life and death, and vampires feed on the blood of the living and transforms its prey. So at the bookstore, Van Helsing explains that vampires travel as a pack and avoid discovery. He isn't sure what their endgame is because they move too fast to comprehend their motive. So as the two men leave the bookstore and walk down an alleyway, Victor wonders why Van Helsing has confided in him. Van Helsing admits that Victor would have eventually learned of the vampires on his own, pursued them, and the doctor would have had to step in. So, while his life is almost over, Van Helsing is sure that Victor can still astonish the world. And before Victor can respond, Caliban then grabs Van Helsing, drags him further into the alley. Victor looks on his creation, snaps Van Helsing's neck, and tells him to get on with making a mate. And Caliban warns that he will kill all of Victor's friends and associates until he delivers on his promise and then walks off. That is huge, because Caliban just gave Victor the ultimate threat. He's gonna, he has to make him this bride now, and he has to do it, because if he doesn't, then something really bad's gonna happen to him, and it's gonna get really interesting now, so I'm really looking forward to seeing where that's going. I loved the subplot of this episode. That was very strong, and I really, really enjoyed it. The only thing to talk about is Brona and Ethan. Remember how Brona left him in the last episode? Yeah, she came back to him in this episode. And she's unfortunately, she's coughing and there's blood on her pillow. And he gets into bed with Brona and tries to comfort her. And she asks where he's been all night. And Ethan says that he went out with Dorian. Of course, he had sex with Dorian, but he doesn't tell her that. He doesn't tell her that he had sex with Dorian. He just says, oh, I went out with Dorian. She's eventually going to find out. I'm sure she's going to find out, but I have a feeling this whole one-night stand with Dorian was simply that, a one-night stand, and that's why they didn't really bring it up in this episode, because he truly does love Brona, and he heard that in this episode. And basically, she assures Ethan that he's a good, true man, and he says that he loves her with all his heart. And Brona gasps and says that she loves him as well, which is very, very sweet. It's actually a pretty sweet moment on the show, which we haven't seen a lot of. We then see, what do we see after that? Oh, we see, by the way, Caliban cry in this episode. I forgot to say that. We saw Caliban cry, so I thought that was interesting. Ethan loads his guns and assures Brona that he'll be fine. She tells him to stand there for a moment so she can look at him, and then says that it's his best, and if he keeps a distance from her, and he's very undeterred. Ethan kisses her and says that if he gets sick, then she can take care of him. And Brona removes a medal of St. Jude from around her neck and asks Ethan to wear it that night. But after a moment, he takes it. So Malcom asks about Brona and Ethan admits that she's not well. He's checked out the possibility of placing her in an institution, but discovered it was a prison for people waiting to die. And Malcom offers to pay for a private asylum in the country, and Ethan believes she would rather die at home. When Malcom offers opposites, saying the pain will change her, Ethan says that he will love whoever she becomes. So, it's gonna get interesting to see what actually they do to Brona, because Brona, Ethan really does love her, but she really doesn't think that she deserves him, I don't think she thinks she deserves him, and I think she kind of thinks he's too, she's not good enough for him, and it's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. But overall, I love this episode, as usual. Amazing episode, by far the best episode of the season. I love this episode. I thought it was really, really intense. There was a lot of stuff going on in this episode that I really love. One thing next episode is going to be by far the best episode. The promo next week's episode looks like it's only focusing on Malcom and Vanessa, and it looks like it's going to focus on basically Vanessa going through this big, transformation, and she even tells Malcom to kill her. Do you really think they'd kill off Vanessa in the second to last episode? I think they would. This show has taken a lot of risks. They killed off a lot of characters so far. I have a feeling they're going to do that, and with 2 episodes left, it's going to get really awesome. Yeah, we only have 2 episodes left of Penny Dreadful. It's really sad, though. But honestly, this show, just wow. Ever since I have a feeling every episode that's now is going to be, I'm going to be sitting here next week watching Penny Dreadful, and I'm going to be telling you guys the same thing. Reviewing Penny Dreadful, and I'm going to be saying the same thing. Best episode of the season, best episode of the season, best episode of the season. It's just that good of a show. It really, really is. It's consistently amazing. It's consistently good, and it's never not going to be amazing. I feel like the show's always going to be amazing. It's always going to be just a wow kind of show. So let's talk about a couple predictions that I have. One, now that Vanessa's possessed, I do think something big is going to happen. Someone's going to die next week. I know that right now. Someone is going to die. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I have a feeling we're only focusing on Vanessa next episode, because with what we saw in the promo, we just saw Vanessa. We didn't really see anything else in the promo except Vanessa. So that's very interesting to see. As far as Dorian goes, do you think that Dorian's going to try... Do you think that, having sex with Dorian is what made Vanessa possessed. I'm pretty sure that's what made her possessed, is because Dorian is a very, like, controlling character, as I said. He can kind of change your mind about things. Do you think that Dorian and Vanessa might start a relationship? I don't know. We'll have to see. What do you think about Ethan and Dorian? Do you think that was a one-time thing, or do you think that they truly do have feelings for each other? I really don't think they do. I think that was just a one-night stand thing that he did because he was upset that Brona left him. Brona is clearly his true love. We saw that in this episode. He really does care about her. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. As far as Brona, do you think that she's going to find out about Ethan having sex with Dorian? I'm pretty sure she will eventually. We'll have to see how she'll react to that. As far as Victor goes, will he actually make a bride for Caliban? I'm hearing a lot of people say that Brona could end up being the bride, which I guess makes sense, but I have a feeling Brona is going to die this season, and if that happens, that'd be really cool, actually. So, we have 2 episodes left of the show. I'm really excited for the rest of the show. As I said, I've really been enjoying it. I love Game of Thrones, guys, but this is my favorite show to watch on Sundays. It really is. It gets better and better every episode. Sabine talked in this episode. I was so surprised that Sabine talked, because he hasn't talked all season long, and he finally talked in this episode. But this episode was amazing. I loved it. I can't wait for the next episode. That's it, my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and my next review will be for *Halt and Catch Fire*. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.